What is up, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful time. My name is Ethan. I go by Lord Ethan, and I'm an Overwatch collegiate coach of, oh gosh, way too long. I think we're coming up on 7 years and 10,000 coaching hours here this year. Some really exciting stuff for me, and it means that there's lots of experience, and you know, I'm always, every day I still learn something new, but that means that there's just one more thing to pass on. Today we're looking to pass on a little bit of insight onto Goldshark. This is a hit scan sniper player that is playing on Rialto. This is placements. It was around a Gold 3 lobby. They mentioned, but regardless of the level of the lobby, I think that this is still a good game to review. I agree. I got to peep a little bit of this match, enough to get a couple of takeaways that I was going to be happy to focus on, and I absolutely agree. I think this is a great game to review. They say I play a couple of minutes of Widow and then Ashe for a majority of the game. We were struggling a bit on defense because we kept staggering, and when it came to trying to push the point the most, I went Hanzo. I think I did fairly well, besides my positioning on some place. I felt like Roadhog was on me the whole game since I mainly died to him, but all in all, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'd love to hear what I have to say as well. Well, I do love hearing myself talk. I'm funny to listen to at 1.8 times speed, in fact, but let's see what there is to examine. A little thing I did go through earlier and like 0.25 that and not even to see if you're cheating, but just to see that your crosshair was on her head and then we just flick off of her for no reason. So just a little bit of time in the practice range or Kovacs or whatever we use to kind of like warm up our aim and make sure that we're not we're not jerking our mouse away from actually perfectly aligned shots. You would have killed the Ashe if you hadn't moved the Ashe if you hadn't moved your mouse. So a little thing as well here. We had this hog marked on the high ground, and so if we don't see him elsewhere, right, like we know where he isn't, so we know where he is, right? And so if we don't know where he is, then we know where he might isn't be elsewhere. Hold on. In any case, right, that's a nice shot. In any case, right, we saw him earlier on the high ground. We haven't seen him anywhere else. There's no reason to assume he's not still on that high ground. So at that point, there's no reason to put ourselves within 20 meters of him, right? We want to make sure that when grappling to that other high ground earlier, we're doing it either at a range where his hook is a little harder to land, or we're anticipating him to pop back out and hook us, right? And we can just dodge the hook, step left or right or whatever, right? I don't mind this grapple and this angle. As soon as we start taking damage, we want to change our approach here. It should be taking damage or pressure is an indication to start doing something a little bit differently, right? The sim wall is already up and our Widow sight's already up as well. And instead of grappling over here, I instead look to grapple elsewhere, right? Over here, again, you just want to make sure that you're keeping distance, plenty of distance between yourself and the threats. We're gonna get forced off of Widow, and that's a-okay. Although I think that there's a little bit of an irony to be found in like playing the sniper character and we're being antagonized by Hog, right? So maybe be comfortable playing a little further back, a little slower, right? That's a little bit scary to see in real time. Honestly, I might have wanted to coach up onto the high ground because the Hog is on the low ground, right? And so if the Hog is on low ground, then I probably don't want to be in front of him, especially if he's been antagonizing me. Be careful about putting yourself in front of your tank player as well, right? He even comes equipped with a barrier, which he hasn't cast in front of you, but he could use at other times. I also don't really care for that coach gun. I don't want to see coach gun for damage necessarily. It's got, it's your mobility cooldown, and this character is already so weak to like dive and threats and things like that. And so you really want that coach gun to put yourself in really good, strong positions early on, or to be able to disengage from your threats. We even coach gun up onto the high ground, which is a really smart call, and then we drop off the high ground, which is a call, and so I really like the fact that we're able to be in the position to do a lot of damage onto some of the ones who get out here in the open. And I love that as soon as we built our ult, we used it there. That's a very, very important principle that like even GM players don't like abide by. Is like if you have your ult, use your ult, right? So if you have an ability, you should also use it, right? So I endorse the dynamite on the Roadhog there, at least before you die. But honestly, right, we don't have to walk all the way into this room, right? We can walk all the way up to this section, right? We can see that there's a Roadhog there, and then after that, we toss the dynamite on the ground and we unpeak. That is as much as you need to do, right? You don't have to fight this. You don't have to trick yourself into thinking that this is something an Ashe should be doing. I would never, if you were a player on my team, I would never look at this and say, yeah, Goldshark, I really need you fighting that Roadhog there so that we can capture the objective. That's what a good coach would tell you. No, a good coach isn't going to tell you to match up against a Roadhog in a small room while he's taking a breather, right? No. Disengage from that, right? Play your ranges, your effective spaces, and also get to the high ground. They got a car wash set up. You're going to walk through this choke like your Sigma who's on fire right now? He's in a microwave. Oh my goodness. No, he's getting hooked. And you would have angles on this Ash, on this Roadhog, if you just jumped up to high ground. You've got the coach gun to do it. We haven't seen a Dynamite in a minute. There's our first one in a while, but it's going to a Roadhog, which is yielding less ultimate generation than if we had launched it on a Squishies. I think we even forced the Suzu, so, it's possible that you could force a lot more with the Dynamite, like a Suzu and a Wraith, or you could force Ash off the high ground, right? We're stuck shooting this Hog. We're getting microwaved by turrets, and honestly, this is all because we aren't on the high ground, right? Oh, there we are on the high ground, but for me, it's too little too late, right? We have this really good idea to be up here, and I want you to embrace this good idea a lot earlier, right? Go for your good ideas. Don't trick yourself into thinking that you have to fight from the low ground, right? The same way that you shouldn't trick yourself into thinking that you have to fight the Hog in a closed space. I really like the mechanical output that we're seeing. I've actually seen a lot of really, mechanically talented metal ranked players lately. You kind of underestimate, or I guess overestimate how far away the Ash is, or how much range you've got on that Dynamite there. But I generally really like this. Okay, all right, we have our ult. We want to use it. That's the policy. If you have your ult, you need to use your ult as quickly as possible so that you can start building it, the next one, as quickly as possible. You have a mark on the Hog. You go for the ult cast. Oh my goodness, that's marvelous. I love that. Again, I've got GM players who sit on and save their ult thinking that they need to have it for some perfect scenario, when really, look at all this operable space that you've created. I like that you're scoped in to do the damage onto this Hog. You force him off, right? Make sure that you're not, I would probably move, from this position as well, right? Whether it's coach gunning over the wall or just walking away, or, honestly, maybe even walking towards Hog so that you're right here, right? So that he can't see you to hook you, right? As opposed to right here where he can, right? Cover and angles are such interesting things, right? So you've got a lot of options, but I think you have to move a lot earlier. You really only ever have about 8 to 12 seconds to play in one space in Overwatch at a time. I call that a fight phase, or the duration of a fight phase, right? So at each fight phase, you really want to rotate to where you need to be for the next phase of the fight. And again, the fight phases occur in Overwatch every about 8 to 12 seconds. You're going to see a fight phase change. Coach gun on the high ground. Coach gun onto the high ground. We can't talk about any of the other interesting, cool Overwatch stuff until you coach gun up onto the high ground. We can't talk about how you should be shooting the Kiriko, how you could force out Suzu with your Dynamite, how we could get Molten Core out a little earlier, or get him to throw some of it onto the height because he has to deal with us instead of our team. We could be talking about angles and how much more valuable, how much more accessible they are from the high ground, right? We could be talking about timing and map control, the two core concepts, the two core principles in Overwatch, but we don't get the opportunity to do so because we just aren't on high ground. Seek the high ground, take the high ground, play the high ground, and honestly, when the time is right, you can just yield the high ground. You can go up there just to eventually drop off because you force them up to fight you, and look, if they're up top fighting you, do you think they're contesting the objective? And that's the means by which to win and lose the game. So, especially since it seems like you have some really excellent mechanical output, I think that your best spots are usually going to be on high ground. We have our ult. We're going to be looking to use it. Be careful. Don't want us too out in the open. I think that's a little bit early on the ult trigger, but I think that works perfectly fine. So all in all, a pretty good push. I really like some of the angles that we were able to play. Although I think that we can open up the map as well. Honestly, you're playing against a Roadhog, so you're pretty free to fire damage wherever you want. But if you're playing against a Sigma comp or a Rhine, right, then you might have to off angle to get those shields, right? So that's where, again, I don't need us to get creative like we're gonna play on top of the boat and shoot from there, right? I'm not asking for that kind of creativity, right? But jumping up here or playing up here, which we never did. We never really used much of this space. We didn't try to do anything from over here. I never once saw us play here. I saw us gamble a little bit for this position, but we actually just like shot an Ashe and then I think dropped or moved out here and then dropped, right? When really we could just walked out here and had some really nice dual potential against whoever else and a really nice dynamite out here, right? We never at one point tried to open up this side of the map or this side of the map, right? We definitely don't want to, as Ashe, like try to push through this angle, right? And we definitely don't want to walk up this side, right? But we can walk up these stairs and try to use this doorway here, right? Or this window here, right? We were stuck out here, and at no point did we try to come out towards the mini and like play some of this cover that's over here, right? So I want to see us use a lot more of the map, right? And really okay, maybe not this much of the map. We still want to play in safe, smart, good positions. Oh no, we even used our coach gun, and that's a little unfortunate. Yeah, so instead of using our coach gun after we drop, let's just use our coach gun to just move high grounds, right? So again, you get to be up here for about 8 seconds. After that, you have to rotate, but I don't want you rotating in front of a hog at a over a length of time during which he can hook you, right? Instead, I'd rather the transition be instantaneous, right? From one high ground to the next with a coach gun that is like a 1 second, less than 1 second cast time that takes 1 second to put me there, that from which I am difficult to hook at my starting position and my ending position, and both positions benefit me, right? You're 37% your ultimate. You could have your next ultimate if you just coach gun to the high ground instead of dropping off the height, just to coach gun away from the hog and not even up to the height, right? You understand what I mean, right? So a little bit of an oversight on our part, and we're still on this low ground angle, which means we aren't able to fight the Junkrat. We don't have the best angle on the soldier. We have to coach gun away from the hog again instead of coach gunning like a threat that's on us. We're also just watching the Roadhog lumber up to us, and we're not getting away from him earlier on, right? So literally, like as early as here, right? Again, we should be on the height, right? That's the way to get away from the Roadhog, right? And that way he's going to walk up height, and we can just drop, right? And then we can coach gun right back up to the high ground, because we coach gun up to the high ground. We sit on that high ground for about 12 seconds. That's about how long it's going to take for him to walk up there, for us, him to walk up there, and for us to dodge him for a little bit. We drop onto the low ground. By then, our coach gun is regen, so he drops after us, and then we coach gun right back up to the high ground, right? And it's a never-ending cycle. But we take shots and stand in this room against the Roadhog that has been antagonizing us all game, and then only just now realize, oh shoot, I need to leave. But this is the second time that he's hooked us out of a coach gun, because we are just... Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Goldshark. We're actually just putting ourselves in front of him. And that's not where you want to be. And you know that that's not where you want to be, right? And so the curious thing isn't that the hook is 20 meters. The curious thing is that as Widow, as Ashe, we are playing within 20 meters of a Roadhog, right? One of those things we really can't do anything about, right? I wake up every single day and I roil at the heavens for trapping this beautiful ascendant mortal soul, or immortal soul of mine into this useless, cursed, broken husk, right? I can't do anything about that. I can't do anything about the fact that the hook is 20 meters long, right? But I can brush my teeth every day, wake up at a reasonable time, establish for myself patterns and routines, and make sure that I'm eating right so that my day-to-day life as a cursed, broken, useless, mortal husk is like at all remotely enjoyable, right? So do the mortal things. Do the boring things. Take to the high ground. Outplay the 20 meters of the hook. Roil the gods all that you want. But that hook is 20 meters. You have to play beyond that range. Okay. Get up to the height. Get up to the... I'm so sorry, Goldshark. You gotta coach gun up here. You gotta coach gun up here. You corner yourself. He can't hook you if you're up here. He can't hook you until he walks up the steps if you're up here. And by that, in the time that it takes him to walk up these steps, you can actually just turn around and walk away. Remember, you move faster walking in the direction that you're facing. It's really unfortunate that you die here, because look at how close you are to your ultimate. So when you're 80% to your ultimate, the only thing that you're thinking about is how to build your ult as quickly as possible so that you can use it as quickly as possible. And you're not going to be able to do that when you're dead, which means one of the things that you have to be thinking about amongst the thousands of things you got to be thinking about whenever you're playing Overwatch when you're 80% to your ultimate is, how do I build my ult to use my ult and live during the whole process? And one of those easy ways is going to be avoiding the hog and his 20-meter hook range, and his 10-meter one-shot potential with the right click. And the best way to do that is going to be, that's right, taking high ground. And again, you can just drop, right? That's what you do against the Moro there. Now, I don't like how disengaged you get from this fight. Oh, this is too far away, too far out. And not even the good far out. Not even like far out, man. But like the bad far out. You're too far away. And so, but you did demonstrate the principle, right? You were up here, and then you got pressured out by the Moira Coalescence, and then you just dropped. Well, you tried to coach gun onto like this little ledge, like you're Batman or something. But you had the right principle, right? So you can just drop off the height. Now, I want you to save that coach gun to push a threat away from you. That isn't the Roadhog who could just hook you within 20. Oh! It was a misinput. You calm down. You calm down. Dropping off the height. It was a misinput. I know. But it's also a little unfortunate. We want to make sure that every single step that we take is like really, really, absolutely, utterly deliberate, right? There shouldn't be any steps that you take that surprise you, right? I want to be really careful about that. So we're gonna swap on a Hanzo. We're still playing within 20 meters. And this is me waking up every morning and thinking to myself, why can't I just live in a wizard's tower and not have to pay taxes, right? I don't have that option. Shoot their team from ranges and distances that are either longer than 20 meters if you're playing main in front of a Roadhog, or take an off angle, like your Reaper is on, your Curie is behind them. Your Sigma is playing the main angle, absorbing all the damage. You have a window you could play, a side angle that you can play. You can jump down here. You can climb all the way over here, right? You actually had a lot of time to spend not shooting them, but like climbing out up here. Now, are they eventually going to move and out of your line of sight? Sure, right? But maybe you get a couple of picks and you send them all the way back to spawn, right? But you just are limited on your options here. Your options are to either shoot a tank who is threatening to you, who has more health and more sustain than you have damage, or to go find another pick to open up, right? We're going to find ourselves dependent on our Roadhog to secure the damage, and the Reaper as well to get the damage into this Roadhog. So honestly, beyond that, it's probably time to start finding new picks, right? You want to be looking for the Moira, the Soldier. Are your best ways to get those picks going to be from main while being threatened by their Hog, or is it going to be by establishing yourself on an off angle that you haven't been marked on, where the enemy team hasn't seen you yet and will be surprised by your presence? If the team doesn't know where you are, that's an advantage for you, right? If you're more ready to take a duel or to land a shot than they are to dodge it or they are to duel you, that's an advantage, right? So starting on the main angle where you're already seen, right? This is why you were easy to hook on the Widowmaker, right? Is because you started in a position and then you moved. You either didn't move from that position, or you moved to a position that was either just as or more predictable, or just as or more like counterplayable, right? So again, you're grappling as Widow within distances of 20 meters. You are as Hanzo standing behind your Roadhog, shooting into their Roadhog. Do these sound like the rule sets by which these characters play? I'm personally not entirely convinced that they do, although you will find scenarios where that can be the case, right? So I don't want to say that my word is an absolute law, or that Overwatch's rule sets are absolutely all-encompassing here. There's a couple of core principles, right? Those include timing and map control. Interesting that you take the... I've never had any value out of the scatter arrow perk, but really scenarios in Overwatch are going to be different from team fight to team fight and fight phase to fight phase, right? So you just want to understand the rules that Overwatch plays by to help you navigate these fights in real time. Those are probably hard shots to go for on the Mercy. There's probably pressure that you can apply to the rest of the team to help keep your Roadhog from dying, right? So if you're shooting the Soldier and the Junkrat, who you can reliably hit, especially if you're playing at angles from which you can hit them, right? So like over their heads, on an off angle, right? On an off angle, in cover, but still down the main sight line, as opposed to like out here in the middle of the open, right? Are those targets that if you shoot them, will they not be able to shoot your Roadhog as easily, right? I think that the answer might possibly be yes, and so those might be targets that you should be enticed to shoot, right? Any way that you can relieve pressure off of your teammates, off of your tank, get rid of the threats that are on your supports. A little unfortunate that you get jumped by the Junkrat here. There's not really a way to know that he's there unless you have a scouting arrow, and I think that we had like yeeted it out. Hold on, what did we do with the scouting arrow? Recon arrow is really important. I don't know that you need to know where those targets are, right? You know the Hog and the Moira and the Mercy are lumbering main. I want the sonar here because the cart is rolling into the finish line, and the only thing that matters for me is an advantage in the form of an elimination, and the only way to get an elimination without walking out beforehand and seeing what's out there is to have information is to know where people are without having to walk around the corner, right? And that's going to be attained via the sonar. So I like the approach there. Probably just a misuse of the sonar. Really just use it to figure out where people are, right? Otherwise, scout with your brain. Listen and watch, right? Who do you see kunais flying past, or pamphlets, blue or yellow pamphlets going across? Do you hear Anna's pew of her dart gun? Do you hear Roadhog's scrap gun? Do you hear his lumbering footsteps? Do you hear the chirps of a jetpack cat or a bastion, right? Do you hear Ramatra talking about I don't even know, retribution or whatever he talks about, right? Stomping around the corner, right? Scout with your brain. That way you can save the sonar for when you need to just line up the headshot through a wall and get someone to accuse you of cheating, right? Whew, either you know exactly what 20 meters and some odd change looks like, or you are the luckiest bastion I have seen, like, in a week and a half. That is crazy. I think you should have been hooked there. But, like, you're playing too close. You're also not on high ground. You know where you're hard to hook, by the way? The high ground. There's still some crazy Roadhog players. Shoot the trap. Oh my god. Or ping it. Or ping it for your team. Very, very important to ping our targets. I don't think that I've seen any pings, actually, now that I think about it. But very, very, very important to ping our teams. Also, if we're going to be playing here anyways, like, I think just whip out the shift, right? We're down the shift here. And I think we can just boot it right back up, right? We go for some spam onto the Mercy Soldier. Understand that that's not working. Look to off angle here. Again, I think that we should be on high ground because that's going to give us the clearest options. Roadhog just walks up to us and soaks up all of the damage here with his breather. That's a little crazy. I like the target swap. Really nice tracking onto the Moira as well. You can heal yourself, by the way, right? You picked that perk. I often do this too, where I forget that I can do that as well. Seems like it just occurred to us. Engage your shift form instead of walking out into the open, right? Just be willing to heal yourself here, and then also, yeah, don't bail on this because you're actually walking out into the open here, and you have your Kiriko with you. So honestly, what you should be doing here is just laying your shift in the Roadhog, and then when that doesn't kill him, go ult as well, right? A little unfortunate that you leave your Kiriko here when she had come to help you. You guys could have helped each other, and that just requires a little bit of awareness on your part. And then again, you know, you've done such a great job so far, especially on the Ashe, of like ulting when you had it, and you had your ultimate, so you needed to let her rip, right? That way the Hog hooks you, because he's like, oh, I want to cancel this Bastion ult, right? So he hooks you instead of the Kiriko, and the Kiriko just Suzus you, right? Or you have your armor and your overhealth and your healing perk, right? Or, you know, whatever other things you want to, whatever other variables you want to cover, right? But at the end of the day, the principle is if you have it, you should use it, right? So definitely use it on you, on the Roadhog, for your Kiri. Don't be out here. Did you even looked back? You saw how far your team was away from this, right? So look at this. You're engaging on behalf of your team instead of just turning around, but like not walking out or not being in front of your tank, right? You see that your tank is in front of you because you don't see your tank in front of you, right? And so you really want to wait to engage. You don't want to be the one to engage on behalf of your team there. And so be really, really careful about that. It just means that you're the one taking all the damage. You become the tank, but you're not a tank player. You don't have that health. You don't have that damage resistance. You don't have those subclass passive roll bonuses and passives. All you have is the damage you're capable of and the sustain that your supports can do, and that is a finite amount as well. Shoot the trap, by the way. Shoot the trap or ping it. We saw it just there under the corner of our eye. We end up getting trapped by it. A little unfortunate, but that's just going to be a little extra attention to detail that will help us understand that. From here, jump up to the high ground. This is particularly egregious for me, right? I was complaining, endless complaining from me about how you weren't jumping up to high ground with Ashe, who has a coach gun to get up there. You can always drop down. Hanzo has a wall. Hey, shoot the trap. Don't walk into that. Oh, no. Hanzo has a wall climb. One of the things that I'm frequently, actually always telling my almost GM, I think actually he might be GM, my GM rated Kiriko player who is like the rock of my team and one of my hard commers, one of my in-game leaders, I'm always telling him, not enough climbing for me. You should be climbing more. These are nice shots, by the way. I bet you they'd be just as easy from the high ground that you can climb to as a passive. That's not even a cooldown. You can just go up there as you want, whenever you please, right? Instead, we're finding ourselves like contained to like the center of these fights, the center of our core. Even on these snipers, you can be on the outside of the arena, right? You're not tracers zip zapping around on the outside of the team's formations, but you're also not Emre playing in the middle of your team's formation and trying to just spam down the tank, right? You're playing Hanzo, Widow, Ashe. These are characters who have some of the lowest time to kills in the game, and that's what you want to be accessing on those characters. A huge shout out goes to Goldshark for providing this replay code for examination and remark. I had an absolute blast looking over it earlier, and I'm glad that we managed to cover it. It's definitely a long one, and that's why I'm not able to spend much time on it. I really enjoy doing like the hour-long VOD reviews where we get into like every single little detail, and here we're only really able to cover like the big picture concepts and kind of brush the top of the iceberg. If you guys are interested in some of that more in-depth coaching, then reach out. We can set something up, guys. I'm more than happy to be cost effective, be accommodating. In the meantime, we just got to stick with these or in lieu of that, we'll just stick with these little VOD reviews that I collect from this Overwatch Discord server. There's a lot of replays that get posted, and as the channel grows, maybe we'll have an opportunity to submit VODs and replay codes ourselves, and kind of build a little community for that. I had that going many moons ago, and we might be able to consider that going up again sometime soon. But at least for now, this will be what we have to work with. I think it does the job for now. And guys, for participating, for submitting replay codes, thank you, and but also for watching, thank you so much. If you guys enjoyed the content, thought it was entertaining, insightful, educating, then drop a like, leave a comment. Early feedback, early support is really meaningful to an endeavor like this one, and I really sincerely appreciate everyone who has left nice comments and liked the videos and watched. Some of these videos have actually really popped off, which is an absolute blast, and hopefully this information is reaching a bunch of people who are really benefiting from it, and that's why an extra special thank you goes to all those who submit replay codes for our examination. Not only are you getting to learn something, not only am I getting to have a lot of fun examining these replay codes, but we're also getting to pass on some of this feedback to people who might not otherwise have access to it. Guys, for watching, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Remember to be good to each other, be fair to yourselves, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.